Jacob, remember a few months ago when you came on this podcast and announced you were writing a book?
I do remember that.
And then, like, a month later, I came on this podcast and
Yeah, you copied me.
Yeah, I copied you. My contract I signed in 2020. I was copying this man I don't think I knew yet. I knew you. Well, it's been another month, folks. And guess what? I'm writing another book. At my day job this time, which I lost in Cult, the beautiful publisher of Jacob's other book. We just announced our new Grasshopper celebration, and this book feels particularly of interest to Something Rotten fans. Would you say, Jacob?
Yeah, remind people who Grasshopper is and
Grasshopper?
why they might care about it.
Grasshopper, the developer of Killer 7, No More Heroes, The Silver Case, Flower, Sun, and Rain, Sine Mora, Frog Minutes, all kinds of great
Killer
stuff.
is dead?
Killer is Dead. I'm playing Killer's Dead right now. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so we are doing this massive box set collection celebration of Grasshopper, 25 years of Grasshopper, and the man at the head of the company, Suda51. One of the video game auteurs. I think one of the most interesting people directing video games. I don't even feel like that's much of a jump to say that. It just feels like an accepted thing at this point.
Yeah.
The package comes with a beautiful book full of never-before-seen artwork. It's really rad. It comes with stickers, pin badges. It comes in a giant box with magnets. Don't let anyone lie to you. The magnets were my idea. I'm so proud of them. It comes with 4 expanded essay books covering key games. That's Ed Smith covering Killer 7, Ashley Barden covering Shadows of the Damned, Diego Archuelo covering No More Heroes, and Cyril Vasquez covering The Silver Case. And
wow, we got to get Ashley on the pod. We're 3 for 4 on those authors.
We really do. Ashley's like my current favorite writer. She's so cool. And then the first 1,000, there's a few left, are signed by Suda of the collector's edition. So there you go.
That's it. Buy that book, everyone. Buy 2 of Blake's books for every one of mine.
lostincult.co.uk. They would have to buy 20 of my books to match what your book made.
No, I was just saying you've written 2 and I've written 1. That was my point.
0.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new season of the Something Rotten podcast. Brand new, but that theme song might sound a little bit familiar because we are back with our old friend, Call of Duty. It's time to talk about Call of Duty Black Ops. We're going to be spending 2 episodes here, and then we're going to move on to another Ops game, Spec Ops: The Line. It's the Ops season here on Something Rotten.
51 dead Ops.
Blake, you I feel like have been more excited playing this game than at least a couple of our previous seasons.
Hey, look, I'm such a fucking mark for Call of Duty. I just have a blast. But I'll say, the last level or so we played, I got really uncomfortable, which really tested how much fun I was having playing these games. And so
you didn't like force feeding people glass?
No, well, you know what? That actually was not the level that made me the most uncomfortable. I just don't know if we need to make Vietnam levels in video games, but we'll get there.
You just love John F. Kennedy, and you think no one should ever point a gun at him.
I didn't know. I've never played this game. I didn't know fucking JFK was in here. I remember we all laughed about Ronald Reagan a couple years ago in Call of Duty. I had no clue this was fucking old hat for these clowns because I had not played Black Ops.
Yeah, well, hey, and the one coming out this year, they've got Osama in it. They've got fucking
9/11.
Bush. They said they wouldn't have 9/11, but I'll have to play it to see if I believe
if
them.
they were really about it. Never mind.
They'll get to 9/11. They have
They'll
to.
get to it. Y'all ever see the Uwe Boll Postal movie that opens with 9/11?
It opens with like a bad something awful joke. Yes.
And then there's that movie that ends. What's the movie that ends with 9/11 with Ashton Kutcher?
The one with Robert Pattinson in the tower.
Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
I figure
Anyway.
that they'll do the Mark Wahlberg take on it at some point. If I was there, it would have gone down differently.
Oh, like revisionist history. Like they'll put you on the plane and you'll be like going dark and
That's
like
right.
save the day.
Did you see they made that movie?
Yeah,
There's a Mark Wahlberg movie where he's going to stop a
that's
hijacking.
so cool. I love Mark Wahlberg. Man.
Yeah, he's
so cool.
definitely only done cool things in his life. That voice that you hear joining us, we have been talking about having on the pod for quite a long time. Blake, I don't remember how you got tipped off to this or whatever.
What?
But that
Tipped off to what?
we could have Gault on the podcast.
Well, I don't know. I read his work. I follow what he does. He was brave enough to have me on his podcast to talk about shock sites. I had to return the favor.
All right, something like that. But we wanted to bring a subject matter expert to a game that deserved it. And I don't know if we've done that today, but joining us is Matthew Gault, a freelance journalist, co-host of the Angry Planet pod, someone who has reported on real-life wars and goings-on and conflicts. Fortunately, we've had you on at a very normal week of news, and there's been nothing else going on in the world.
It's been intense, and it's only going to get worse for months.
Matthew, thank you so much for coming on Something Rotten.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm an enormous fan of the show. I listen to it regularly, and I'm a fan of both of your work. And I'm delighted to re-explore a video game that upset me deeply.
Yeah.
So
What
deeply.
do you find more upsetting? The various shock sites we've talked about in our history together, Tub Girl, Two Girls, One Cup, or just like 20 minutes of Call of Duty Black Ops 2010?
Definitely this. Yeah.
Sure. Makes sense. Makes sense.
I have, like, has a game ever been so pornographic yet so sterile at the same time?
Yeah.
Now, this is I want to say up front that I have played this game before, and I remember some of the plot, which is more than I can say for most Call of Duty games. And I will say this is a game with a twist, which most COD games can't really lay claim to. If they have a twist, it's kind of lost amidst all the character swapping and stuff. Blake, I'm so glad to hear that you haven't played this and presumably don't know the twist. So we will keep that a secret, but you can feel free to speculate on it.
Is it that what's his face is dead?
Oh, you'll have to name what's
The
his
Russian
face.
guy? What's the Russian guy's name that you breaks you out of prison?
Reznov? I can
Is he
neither
dead?
confirm
'Cause he
nor
comes
deny
back
that
and
Reznov
no one
is
will
dead.
like acknowledge him. All right, we got a Manhunt 2 situation on
All
our
right, I
hands
guess
here,
we're not
folks.
keeping it secret.
It's not a secret. No other character acknowledges him.
That is true. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 is...
Was that really the twist? I didn't
Yes.
know.
Yes,
it
that
just
is.
seems like the obvious. Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
Call of Duty Black Ops 1 is an interesting point in the history of the series and in kind of the history of the Call of Duty games that we've played. Because about a year ago, we played Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, the first Modern Warfare one of these games. And then we played World at War, which was a game developed by Treyarch, but still kind of in the... Okay, we're still doing World War II. Can we do World War II in kind of a different way? Can we make it seem not like World War II games? But this, a game that came out in 2010 after the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, is Treyarch's first time doing a non-World War II shooter. And also, I think the first time that Call of Duty has been about real-life conflicts that are not World War II, because both of the Modern Warfare
You mean, like,
games
specifically?
are like basically
Right.
made up. They're using, kind of unnamed Middle Eastern countries, and obviously they're based on kind of current events, but not in any real way. And this is about Bay of Pigs. This has name drops the Tet Offensive. We meet John F. Kennedy. This is theoretically based on real history. It is kind of a fanfic of real history. And in that way, the first mission is you killing Fidel Castro, or at least trying to.
Yeah, you canoe Fidel Castro,
But
and then feel weirdly bad about kind of his female associate being murdered in the same breath, right?
I don't think the game feels bad
but-
about it.
There's an expression of emotion in the moment from the person you're with.
I got a bold take about this game, if I can drop
Please.
this one on you. I've played a lot of Call of Duties in my day. This game is fucking insane. Like, what is happening?
It is.
This is when Call of Duty becomes Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like-
it really is. I mean, the story is out of control. I'm not sure what's happening. I mean, it's just so much like it's so much conspiracy garbage at once. And yet the game itself is literally like Mountain Dew is such a good description. Like, I really think the first needle drop I heard was like a heavy metal song. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this level set in Cuba, like, this music doesn't make sense. And then it never lets go from that. Like, the amount of times it's just like, here's a minigun, by the way. And it's like, why am I in Kowloon Walled City with a fucking minigun?
No, this guy, it gives you a minigun that's name is Death Machine. Like, it says when you pick it up, it's like, here's your Death Machine.
And, like, I can't even get a fucking grasp on the plot of this game, but every level is, like, more bonkers than the next. In a way that, like, I'm having fun with, and also I'm like, this is kind of disturbing.
It's like you're playing Time Crisis while like somebody that was trying to rip off Tom Clancy shouts their novel at you.
Yeah, like, it's tonally inconsistent.
I have been struck by just how relentlessly loud this game is, which seems like just a descriptor of Call of Duty, but I actually don't think that's the case. And one of the things with like Call of Duty 4 that you can say really positively about that game is like the pacing of it is really varied and interesting, where for every loud mission you're doing, you're going to do a stealth one or like a smaller thing or whatever. And just like, I was playing this and I was like, I've been hearing machine guns firing nonstop for 3 hours. Just like every single mission is just like for the whole time.
Yeah, after like the first 2 levels we played, I had to like pause the game and like leave my apartment for a few minutes. It was like too much. Like, it was very stressful.
So I think the contrast in Call of Duty styles here is an interesting thing to talk about, because this is being contrasted with Call of Duty 4, which is kind of the game that has basically defined the course of the series since it released. But I would say that the Infinity Ward Call of Duties, while also incredibly, absurd and kind of called Modern Warfare 3 features the Eiffel Tower falling over next to you. Like, it's not like they're more grounded games, but I do think they hold closer to a kind of real military veneer. It seems like they spend more time defining, like, this is the unit that the person that you're fighting with is in, and like, this is, you can see their patches and whatever. And this game, for both good and ill, really kind of almost sets aside all of that, like all of the military iconography, to just kind of focus on these characters who are like secret agents. They're kind of James Bonds. They don't really seem to be part of any specific military group. They're just like superheroes who sweep into an ongoing conflict.
They're with whatever agency is most appropriate at the time, whether that's CIA, SOG. That kind of it changes all the time.
Yeah. But I also think, and this I would say is to the game's credit, like, this game focuses on characters in a way that I don't think the other ones really do. And I do think that's kind of the Call of Duty Black Ops thing, is that in this game, they have characters who are getting right up in your face. They're speaking. They are like memorably acted and designed. In the Infinity Ward ones, I can basically remember that there's a character named Price, and that's it. And it's like, okay, Price is in all of them.
Soap McTavish, bro?
So, okay, Soap is a guy who's in it, but like, I don't know what his personality is. He's just Soap. And so this game having kind of telling more of a character story with military actions as just kind of like the background of whatever the characters are doing is kind of an interesting, different take when compared to, like, the Infinity Ward games, which I think are primarily about their wars rather than their characters.
Yeah, I don't really. Let me know. Do you all feel like Treyarch's Call of Duty games are like especially angry games? Like,
Yes.
I remember. Okay, good. Thank you. Like, I remember us talking about this with World at War, just how fucking vicious that game felt, and this doesn't quite feel that way in terms of like just like the venom of it, but I think the loudness and the rawness of everything, like it's giving me a similar feeling of like this is an angry game compared to Infinity Ward, which are like very troubling in their own ways, but I wouldn't say they particularly seem like angry
Infinity
games.
Ward
Does that make
almost
sense?
wants to seem more objective, I think, where they're like, this is just how
Sure.
it is, man. This
Yeah.
is how war is. And Treyarch's like, "Grr."
Like they seem very cynical. I mean, like this whole I don't really know what's going on in the story, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm lost as can be. But like there is something very like cynical about like the political conspiracy. Like there this big brother operation working against you, and you are this pawn that you didn't even know you were a pawn. Like you hear numbers that like are indicating who you're going to kill or what you're going to do. Like the whole thing feels has such a like kind of hateful, cynical what am I trying to say? Sorry, I'm stumbling. Like a cynical, hateful view of the world almost.
One of the things this game does that really irritates me in all media, and it's something that I see in politics a lot too, is that there's this conception of America as the prime mover of the last 100 years. And it is important, like America, incredibly important to the last 100 years, but there's so much stuff in this game specifically where it's like, oh, there was an accident during the Soviet space program.
Yeah.
Well, that was no accident. America was there, and we screwed it up for them.
The time that you were taken, there's one mission that we played that does not have any combat, where instead you just go on a limousine ride with Secretary McNamara, and you go into, like a version of the CIA. He gives so many cool passwords. You will not believe how many cool passwords this guy has. Ariel, Prospero. But then you get into the war room, and he's immediately like, civilization has been saved more than once in this room. And it's like, this is during Vietnam? You're bragging about, like, saving civilization? Like, that really seems like it should not be the vibe. Or, no, it's not during Vietnam because JFK is there. So it's a little before.
Robert McNamara, one of the great like bureaucratic middle managers of history, one of the architects of the firebombing of Japan that killed who knows how many people, is made to seem like a total badass strutting through the Pentagon. It was that in particular was very strange to me, and it is all in service of putting you in front of JFK and this beloved kind of boomer politician sitting in front of you and saying like, you have to save the world now. The player, Alex.
And I said, all right.
I said, at first I'm going to point the
Give me
gun
the
at
fucking
you, but maybe
minigun,
that
bro.
didn't happen. Here's what I will say to this game, and especially playing it now, is that it is strange in a way that I kind of admire. Like, that it starts off, there is a lot of live action in this game, kind of it is always doing these kaleidoscopic, kind of hallucinatory cutscene montages where you're seeing numbers flying at you, and you're seeing real life events, and you're seeing video game events. But like, the game starts with a woman, like a real video of a woman reading things into a microphone. I would say, maybe a low bar, this almost certainly has the most memorable menu of any Call of Duty ever released, because it is like, in-game, you're a guy strapped to a chair, and Blake, I don't know if you knew this, you can escape from that chair in the menu. Like, you can look down at your restraints, and you can wiggle out of them, and you can walk around that room, and there are even, like, mini-games that you can play around the room. There's a pretty fun twin-stick shooter called Dead Ops that you can play on a computer there, which is, like... I think it is things like that, this game is really just in the nostalgia spot for people about our age, like 30-year-olds who were in high school when they were playing Call of Duty remember Black Ops quite fondly. But I do think that there's enough kind of bizarre touches here that make it sticky in a way that many of the Call of Duty games are not, and kind of all blur together.
I mean, go ahead.
It's the anger and also the fear, but it's kind of riven through it in a way. And some of this is I did a non-Games Press interview with this game's director like 10 years ago, after Black Ops 2. And I have a little bit of a, like, some, idea of like where his headspace is at and like what his psychology is. And it's like very fear driven, and very kind of, I would say, like, reactionary in a way. And like, that's what I see in this game, is this idea that, and like, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the Vietnam level, but there was this idea after Vietnam that if only they had unleashed the full power of the American military and just taken the gloves off and allowed people like Mason and what's the name of the Ed Harris character, the CIA
Hudson, I
guy.
think.
Hudson. Yeah, if only people like that had been there and been in charge, then perhaps we could have won that war. And so, like, the first image when you come in on that Vietnam level is the body bags of all the dead GIs, and you get the Fortunate Son needle drop, and it is like Vietnam as remembered, like, through pop culture. And the rest of that level is just like this very, it's odd, and because it's like they're using the tropes of some of the original Call of Duty games, like 1 and 2, where it's this constant flood of enemy soldiers, set against this war that America lost. And you kind of get to do this revenge fantasy during the opening days of the Tet Offensive.
It's interesting how many scenes here are kind of sequences in which America did not do the thing that it was trying to do. I mean, the opening mission being go assassinate Castro, and you do, and then you're like, wait a minute, but this didn't happen. And then, of course, it turns out that you did not assassinate Castro, and you go to Vietnam, and you win your individual battles, but like, that America doesn't win this war. And so it is interesting where a generous reading of this game, if we are going to kind of separate the art from the artist, would be these bizarre sequences of like American interventionary failures, where it's like, oh God, we kept trying to kill Castro and we couldn't do it, or whatever. And like, we put all this effort into Vietnam and ultimately didn't get anything out of it. But I think a more accurate reading of the game is like kind of trying to rewrite these failures as like, yeah, but kind of they were successes, like we still did some pretty cool shit.
We actually killed Castro. Yeah. We killed Castro, but he tricked us. And that's not fair.
He should have played fair. He should have let us kill him.
How dare he use body doubles? Awful tactic.
Matthew, what is your history with the Call of Duty series?
Oh, Lord. I feel like Call of Duty will one day kill me at the bottom of a jail cell. So I've played most of these. I remember I was working at Best Buy when the first one came out, and I remember it because it was the first small box PC game I saw. They used to be the enormous boxes. And those first two are just like stone cold classics. And I followed the series and played all of them. And then when I became a journalist, I started writing about them as well, because I thought that, especially in the global, like during the war on terror years, there was not a lot of really good pop culture on like film and television that was kind of expressing American attitudes towards the war. And I felt like Call of Duty, as this giant blockbuster franchise about the American military writ large, but American military features prominently in a lot of it, was kind of the place where the zeitgeist was being expressed. And for a while, every year that a release would come out, I would get it, I would play it, and I would write like some 2,000 word kind of think piece diving into it. Blake, as you know, Jacob, as you know, like trying to keep up with the pace of like new release video games can like break your brain. And I eventually kind of stopped doing that with Call of Duty. It's like it became I got my belly kind of got full. You know what though? I come back for the Black Ops series though, because I came back and I did stuff for Cold War. I made a presidential historian, Rick Perlstein, sit and watch me play Call of Duty Cold War. And I'm looking forward to this next one. I'm anticipating playing the next one.
If they look like they're cooking up something, who knows what it is?
But they always do. They always look like they're cooking up something.
That's kind of how they sell the games.
They're good at tricking me into thinking that maybe this time will be different. And it's the levels are all over the place. I thought Cold War was pretty good. I think a lot of these Black Ops are at least interesting to talk about.
I think so, and it is one of, Black Ops is maybe if you wanted to just grab one series within Call of Duty. I've done a lot with the kind of the modern warfares. I think the modern warfares are like pretty evil games, but interesting. But yeah, like this game is weird structurally. It's got kind of interesting storytelling beats. Black Ops 2 has a lot of like choice-based things that are actually implemented in kind of cool ways where the game like doesn't tell you that you're making a choice and you do things. We might see that with the next game that we're playing for this miniseries. Black Ops 3 is one of the most like tech fever dream. Just like I could not explain the plot of that game with a gun to my head. Like truly one of the most bizarre Call of Duty properties ever tried to be put to screen.
Is that the one with Christopher Maloney?
Yes.
Is that the weird like future one where it's all about soldiers with PTSD?
And it's like, yeah, there is this like alternate reality tree that they've created that like people are like going to, and Maloney is like throwing scientists into the wall being like, what is the tree? And then Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign at all. And then yeah, like you said, Cold War is kind of interesting, and who knows what what 6 is going to be like. But it is, like they're kind of taking swings here in a way that Call of Duty 4 felt like a huge swing, and then Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, etc. kind of didn't feel so much. They felt a little playing it safe.
This was a swing at the time, and it was an enormous success.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like this was one of the best-selling games this is, I think, still the best-selling Call of Duty of all time, right?
Oh,
Black
that's
Ops
a
1?
good question. I wonder, because it was definitely in the years where like Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3 might be the fastest selling, though I don't know if it's like totally the best. But yeah, it was like they were all making $1 billion in like a week. This was the kind of era where people were saying like, this game is making more than Avengers in a week. Like it was kind of a proof that games were bigger business than they were being covered as. And I just remember those unbelievable sales numbers for each of them. But yeah, I'm sure, as someone who played the hell out of Modern Warfare 2, I was very excited for Call of Duty Black Ops, and I think I bought it pretty much day one.
It's funny, that was always like a throat-clearing paragraph I would put in my Call of Duty pieces, because it was usually for more of like a mill audience than it was like a gaming audience at the time. So it'd be like, hey, just so you know, more people are enjoying this thing than any other piece of media. Your kids are playing this. You should pay attention to what's inside of it. It was like,
now we have Fortnite and Roblox and kind of all of these like giant, almost, they are the multiverse, or the what's the meta term, the metaverse. But back then it was just like, this is the biggest entertainment property on Earth. It is Call of Duty. It is almost undeniable.
Jacob.
Yes.
We've recorded a lot of ads about Nebula in our day.
That's true.
How fast do you think you can go through all the bullet points.
1.
Start now.
Episodes a week early. 2. Bonus episodes. 3. Support the show. 4. There's a bunch of other cool stuff on Nebula. 5. It helps Blake and I get money. Is that it?
6. Say where they freaking
6.
do the
Go to
thing.
nebula.tv/somethingrotten.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I could have done it faster, and I'll prove it next season.
So let's talk about the plot of this game. It is a frame story where you start out and you are bound to a chair with an unseen interrogator asking you questions, and as you are interrogated, you kind of remember the missions that you've been on. You're playing as a guy named Alex Mason, which is notable both because he is a character that persists through the Black Ops games, but also he's a voiced protagonist, which I don't believe any of the Modern Warfare games really have. I mean, I guess the newer ones do, but you certainly didn't like talk as you were doing things in Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 2. You were just kind of ordered around. And so Mason saying things, making decisions, again, it's a game focused on characters. The first level, you go to Cuba in the Bay of Pigs invasion. This is, I mean, I wrote down, Blake, you said that they all just feel completely overwhelming. The first level I wrote, this feels like a parody of a Call of Duty mission. Just in, like, the first thing, you got turret sequences, you got slow-mo headshots, you got, like, driving. It's just, like, everything is happening immediately.
Yeah, you know, in some ways, this game feels like a response to Call of Duty 4 a few years before. And the excitement over the set pieces of that game. And it's like, well, what if we just make a game of those? And what you get is a pretty terribly paced game where it's like you have to take it upon yourself as the player to walk away to get some downtime in the story. But like, it really does feel like Treyarch, in terms of just like the gameplay, was like, people loved those big missions in 4. Let's just do that nonstop. And yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I tell you, I remember the moment I walked away from the game for a while where I was like, I gotta. It was when you like crashed through a wall or some shit, who knows, and the camera just pans to a motorcycle, and I was like, I'll be back in a minute. I can't do this with this fucking game right now. I'm having fun, but this is a bit fucking much for me, and I like walked off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first notable thing here is this slow-mo Castro headshot where there is a angelic chorus that plays as you shoot him. The game kind of goes like, oh, as it follows the bullet into his head. He had grabbed a woman as a human body shield, who then grabs a shotgun and tries to shoot you.
Which is like, kind of, did they just cop that for Dark House? What the fuck is that mission called? Yeah, that's the exact same shit. Well, what is that mission called?
Going Dark. I think this is, Blake, sneak preview of my book. The afterword for that Call of Duty essay notes this exact parallel here and like talks about the kind of optics of having this, like, the woman's innocent until she picks up a gun and then you can shoot her in the face.
Oh, right. Okay, I didn't even think. I'm gonna cut out the part where I didn't realize the thing I edited had that in. But yes, that's right.
But yeah, and then the person you're with says, crazy bitch, he tried to use her as a human shield and she still protects him, which is, you know, and it's like, she's the stupid one for doing this. We are morally in the clear for shooting her in the face.
And he's so upset that he unloads the rifle around him.
Oh yeah, I thought he was unloading it. Like, doesn't he unload it into Castro or like fake Castro?
I thought he sprayed it around
that also
the room.
might be true. There's a lot of.
I think he sprays it around. There's a lot of
spraying machine guns in these levels. So what happens afterwards is you are trying to escape from Cuba on like a big runway. There's a blockade on it. You as Mason jump off the plane, blow up the blockade, but are kept in Cuba, and are captured by the real Fidel Castro, as well as this game's major villain, who is a guy named Kravchenko. And then the next mission, you have been... Or wait, no, is it Dragovich? It's Dragovich. God,
Dragovich. I don't like it's all the same kind of generic. Every other Call of Duty has a generic Russian bad guy with a grizzled face and loose connections to the Russian military, but kind of separate from its political system. He's a rogue.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, so Dragovich, of whom Kravchenko is his right-hand man, of course. And then the next time you wake up, you are in the bottom of a Russian gulag. And I will say, I think this is a pretty good mission. It is certainly one that I remember, years after playing it, where you're starting in the bottom of this prison, and you meet a charismatic Russian named Reznov, voiced, as of course, by Gary Oldman, who also voices the guy who swallows glass later in this section. He's a multi-talented guy. And this whole mission is you kind of picking up speed as you escape the prison, and you're kind of picking up prisoners who are going with you, and they're all chanting the steps to the plan, which are hilariously specific. Like, some of them are just like, get out of the prison, and some of them are like, shoot a helicopter with a harpoon.
There's like 10 of them.
There are a lot.
There's so many steps.
And everyone knows the steps, even though they're seemingly only designed for Mason. Like, no one else gets to do all the steps. Only Mason does, but everyone knows all of them. But I really like this mission, both because I think it's in a very, like, defined place where it's like a Russian prison is a cool thing to have in it. And also it does kind of feel detached from the military politics side of it. Like, this is just The Great Escape or something. Like, it is just kind of like a prison break sequence, which I think is kind of fun and made me wish that they did more. Just like, hey, there should be like a heist Call of Duty. There should be more that are not about like conflicts, but are just about, or not about like real wars, but just about kind of like groups of people working together to do stuff.
Well, did you know that this was a real gulag? And there was an escape attempt.
Oh.
There were several uprisings in this specific one. I think the dates are a little miffed. I think the ones that happened, I think it says that it happens later in the game, but that doesn't really matter. And they were unsuccessful, but it happened so often in this specific gulag that they ended up closing it down. And it is like it's portrayed in the game, like coal was a big export. Uh-huh. There was a lot of like them using the coal mines as part of the the uprisings. So I thought that was interesting.
So this is Vorkuta Gulag, which is, yes, it has a Wikipedia article. Hey, it was in operation until 1962. This mission theoretically took place in 1961-ish. So there you go. Historically accurate. Call of Duty, we gotta hand it to you.
Once again, Americans weaving themselves into... Actually, I guess technically Liverpudlian was in charge of was the director. But yeah, Americans being woven into the fabric of history that they weren't there for.
Blake.
But I do think you're right. It is... I think there's room in the history of conflict and like human oppression, I guess, broadly. If we're, where I think Call of Duty could do interesting things, and this is, one of the times they've done that.
Blake, do you like this level?
Fuck yeah, man, it was fun. The motorcycle showed up. I had to take a little bit of a break. It was a little bit much for a little man. A very sensitive guy. I'm just over here biding my time until the Vietnam level. I'll be honest with you.
I enjoyed that we had, there were minor characters that were introduced in this level only to die moments later.
Yeah, you've got the big guy and the door shuts on him and you're like, no!
Oh, I love the big man. The big man who, like, gets the guy with the pickaxe or whatever, holds him up real high. That's really fucking cool. Just like in one of the Halloweens. I think he does that. It's like, that's pretty fucking sick.
I do also think...
Yeah, it was fun as hell. You also see the big excavating machine.
Yes,
and
we
I'm
love
such
those
a fan of
excavating
that.
machines.
Those are so
bad for the planet, but cool as hell. We have to admit.
What
I
can
think
you do,
there's
you know?
this interesting. I wonder how much you could write about kind of the use of D-Day imagery as defined by something like Saving Private Ryan in like the scene of a bunch of people waiting behind doors, and those doors open and they all run out and immediately get shot by machine guns is just this very kind of evocative imagery that every time I see it, I think about like the boats on D-Day in Saving Private Ryan, which then both Medal of Honor and Call of Duty, aped almost exactly. And this Prison Break sequence has another one of those, where it's just kind of depicting these people who are running face first into machine guns as this kind of compelling piece of imagery. And in this level, it really is like everyone around you is willing to die so you specifically can get out. And at the level ends without really knowing if anyone else did get out, right?
And Gary Oldman, like, specifically, when those doors open, it was like, we're going to I can't remember exactly what he says, but he connects it to the Russian character specifically. Yeah. He says something where he's like, we understand what sacrifice is and how many people have to die to like stop the fascists.
Yeah, which is a kind of an ongoing theme from World at War, which is, like a large portion of that game's plotline is you playing as Russian, and it is both like really puts a point on how much how much of Russia was demolished during World War II, and kind of their scary devotion to winning. Like the end of World at War is supposed to be pretty uncomfortable, where it's like you are killing German prisoners of war who are bound, and you are like throwing helpless people off of buildings and whatever, and it's like,
oh my god, I forgot all about that.
It's like they are making a statement, and I feel like when a Russian is your ally in a Call of Duty game, they kind of have to make it a point that it's like, hey, remember, they're kind of crazy, but like in this way, they can help you.
Well, he's in World at War, isn't he, Reznov?
Yes, or there are like connecting characters. There's like someone who he worked with who was then... But yeah, that there is a connection between World at War and Black Ops.
Yeah, it's a strange little sequel in a way.
Yeah, I think Reznov's your big guy in World of War that like is giving you all your missions and stuff.
And I think he's played by Gary Oldman in both.
Yeah, there you go. He has certainly made a memorable character in this. But yeah, it is the connecting of those things, and it is this kind of Call of Duty always seems to kind of operate on, it wants to be the Cold War vision of communists. Like it wants to kind of have these like, cackling evil guys. But at the same time, if you are making fiction about World War II, you are going to have to acknowledge that like the Soviet Union was an ally. And so it seems like it finds itself in kind of an uncomfortable place during that.
Can I propose something?
Yeah.
So we have this mission specifically. We have what we know as an unreliable narrator. Spoilers. Most of this story is framed as him telling his interrogators a story about what happened, right? Would not then it go like stand to reason that if he is in this gulag, like he's not telling you, you're not playing through what actually happened. You're playing through his remembrance of what happened. And like that, of course, he's going to cast himself as like an action star hero in that. And of course, he's going to talk about the noble sacrifices of everyone who had to die to get him out of a Russian gulag, right? I guess that plays directly into plot stuff that happens later on in the back half, which I don't think we'll get to today. But I guess it makes me less upset about the game if I remember that this is the story of Alex Mason and some other characters as told while they're being tortured, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be kind of a game where a character who's took part in a bunch of kind of nihilistically violent sequences has to make them make sense in his life. It's, I think, yeah, one of the most charitable readings that you could give the game. Okay, so there's some cool stuff in this. They're chanting "Wield a fist of iron." You're like, wow, what's that? It's a minigun called the Death Machine. You get on a motorcycle at the end. You've got a shotgun. You're spinning it like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2. Somehow
you got fucking homing bullets.
That
dude.
shotgun can
so
blow up
crazy.
a truck in one shot.
Yeah, it's so cool. You don't have to aim.
And then in this sequence, notably, you jump onto a train, and Reznov's like, I can't jump onto that train. And he presumably dies. But then he shows up later in the game, or so we think. Next, we visit the Pentagon. We've talked about this a little bit. You're in a limousine. You're going there. I think it is the game. The game is kind of making it a priority to show the 60s version of the Pentagon. I don't know how accurate it is, but it is kind of cool to think about like what that place would have looked like when computers weren't a thing, and like if people weren't scanning badges to get in somewhere, would they have passwords like Sycorax to get somewhere? But it very much is just kind of, this game is so conspiracy brained, and this really feels like they're like, this is the nerve center, baby. This is where it's all happening. The men cooking up the plots that control the world.
It's interesting hearing when, Matt, you said you interviewed the director, and he seems to be someone who's a kind of a fear-driven individual, because right about hitting this mission, we're really nothing too... It was right about this moment, and maybe it's because I live in a post-QAnon world, but there's something about seeing this stuff that, like, makes me uneasy. Not because I'm a conspiracy theorist, but it's like I start to worry that I'm in the hands of a writer that, like, is fear-driven and sees the world in this way, this, like, New World Order type shit, in a way that, like, I think is, like, very troubling. And I don't know where the game goes with that later, but, like, this type of shit makes my hair stand up on, like, I like bristle up when I see
it's
stuff
so
like
interesting because I think I'm older than both of you, and so like my interaction with conspiracy theory stuff when I was younger is that it had been kind of neutered and was harmless, and like growing up in Texas, like I used to like smoke weed and listen to Alex Jones and laugh, and he was like, to many of us he was a comedy radio show talking about lizard people and recycling all this paranoid stuff from the 60s. And one of the things that QAnon did was make conspiracy theories dangerous again. And in truth, they always had been. And they're like interwoven into the history of the country, like since before the start of the Republic. And people have acted on conspiracy theories and like literally burned things down and hurt people the entire run of the country. But because like it got so almost like commercialized and denuded after the end of the Cold War, it was like we forgot how dangerous being paranoid could be. And so you got things like Black Ops, which takes like reshuffles a lot of the conspiracy theory thinking from the 60s and the 70s into like mass market entertainment. So it's interesting to hear you say, like, when you see them walking into the big room and you see JFK, like, it spikes fear in you. It's interesting.
Yeah, I did not play this when it came out. Like, the only perspective I can have on it is 2024, and like I'm all of a sudden worried that it's like, what is the worldview of the writer? Like, and like, because Call of Duty, whether they want to say it or not, has like very specific messages, you know, and like worldviews. I'm like, what was the takeaway supposed to be? Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know what they thought in 2010. Maybe they just thought conspiracies were cool in an X-Files way, but like, I can't play it with that perspective in 2024.
Part of the challenge of talking about this game is like, the CIA did do insane shit. You know, like it is the kind of the joke where it's like there are two kinds of conspiracy theories, things that the US government has literally admitted to doing, and Jews. You know, where it's like that's kind of what it boils down to. And it's like if you're talking about, you know, attempts to kill Castro, it's like the CIA was like spraying LSD in his room to try and make him crazy and giving him like a poison diving suit and like all of this stuff that does sound insane. And obviously, you know, you're going to get to kind of like Iran-Contra and like so many other things that are like, these are conspiracy theories that did happen. And I think the Black Ops games are kind of playing with this idea of like during the Cold War, there were people who were allowed to do anything to make sure that like American goals were achieved. And it's weird because it's like, it's not like the CIA is a trustworthy organization or has like, you know, been on kind of the up and up and we just make up conspiracies about it because like we can't believe how forthright and truthful they are. But at the same time, it does feel, yeah, it's like you get so quickly into the kind of like these conspiracy theories, I guess, basically allow the US to do anything it wants, and we just assume that they're doing it for the right reasons. Like, is that kind of the Black Ops take?
That's what I'm curious about. It's like I can't quite put my finger on whether or not this game thinks it is good and cool, or this is bad and scary.
What if it's
what I'm
both?
saying? And I don't know how much, like, that's what I was gonna like. Yeah, or is it like my perspective influencing how like I look at it? Like,
I can take us on a small tangent into his brain a little
Sure.
bit. So I got to interview him because after Call of Duty 2, Washington courted him, and he got to go. He worked for a little bit as a fellow at a think tank called the Atlantic Council. And there was this, it was in vogue at the time, like 2012-ish. Everyone was obsessed with, as kind of the global war on terror was grinding out, like what is the next big war going to look like? What's the future of war? We've got all this emergent technology. We've got drones, you know, all this new stuff. What's going to happen? Call of Duty Black Ops 2 gets into some of that stuff. And so the Atlantic Council like comes to him and they're like, hey, we think you, Dave Anthony, have good ideas about what the future of war might look like. And he says yes and joins them. So I got to interview him as part of that. And at the time I was like, how often do you get to talk to a guy like this about what they think and feel? Like y'all have been in the room when you're trying to interview like game devs and it's a press event and like the publisher is right there and you're not really going to get like great answers kind of unrestricted. It was just me and him on the phone. No one else was on the room. So like he told me that one of his ideas was that they should have plainclothes marshals that are a military force inside and around all of the schools in the world to protect them. And I said, hey, that sounds kind of scary. And he said, let me consult my notes here. How would you feel about it if yesterday there'd been an attack in a school and 300 children had been beheaded? Was his response to me when I was like, that's, you know, that doesn't sound good. And so he like immediately went for that like fear-driven image of like not just children being killed by a mass shooter, but being beheaded, which in 2012 is like a very specific image that invokes a certain kind of killing, right?
was this pre or post ISIS beheading videos?
This was pre-ISIS beheading videos, but it was something that like that like those kinds of forces were that was happening. It was not necessarily tied to Islamic State, but there was like a famous case where a French teacher had been beheaded in the street outside of their home. And he also like, so he was very big on like pre-crime, like profiling people, stopping the incidents before they happened, and also presciently worried about quadcopter and civilian drones being laced with explosives and like flown into things, which turned out like absolutely true. That's like one of the markers of the war in Ukraine is like trench warfare with UAVs flying above it.
And I think is a major plot point in Black Ops 2.
Yes.
So it's also a plot point in the Kevin Spacey one. So they've done a lot with drones.
I like that Kevin Spacey one actually. I think it's very interesting. But yeah, so I think that's part of your answer is that like it is portrayed as these guys are hard men on the wall that have to do bad things to keep the world safe. But also, isn't it kind of badass that they do? Like, yeah, they're morally compromised, but isn't it kind of cool to be morally compromised?
Yeah,
the hands dirty to keep the world clean type shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and there's a real difference between this game and Death from Above, the COD 4 AC-130 mission, which feels both that and World at War did have missions that they seemed like wanted you to feel uncomfortable during. I think Death from Above is probably the series highlight of that, of making the war on terror feel uneasy. And even in the most extreme scenes in this, like, there is a scene where you break a window and put glass in a guy's mouth and punch him in the face, and it does not seem to be going for uncomfortableness. To tell you the truth, I have no fucking clue what that scene is attempting to do. It is one of the most like baffling scenes in the game to me, but it doesn't really, it's not going for a Death from Above like scaredness. It does just kind of seem like isn't it crazy how far we're willing to go in this game?
You know what I love about that mission specifically is you put the glass in the guy's mouth, you punch him, you interrogate him, and then people that are trying to kill him come in, you kill them, and then you spend the rest of the mission with that guy, and he's helping you.
He's like, hey man, here's some more guns. You low on ammo? Pick some more up.
It's like, I don't know if someone had made me eat glass that I wouldn't shoot them in the back at the first opportunity.
No, one of the things that I talked about in my recent Call of Duty torture video is just that, like, if you are looking for a line on how the series feels about torture, it is literally just if the good guys do it, it's good, and if the bad guys do it, it's because they're psychopaths. And like, it seems like even in this scene, Clark, the guy you are torturing, understands that you're a good guy, and so it's like, oh, we all know that you have to put glass in my mouth, but at the end of the day, like, we're all good guys, and we're gonna help each other out.
It's like, I make chemical weapons, I get it.
Yeah. God, okay, but let us not skip the missions leading up to that. First off, there's a mission where you have to interfere in the Soviet space program, which I didn't really realize that was what the mission was about until the moment that you blow up a rocket with a guided rocket launcher. And then I was like, oh, I guess we were stopping them from launching a rocket. But it really is just one of those Call of Duty things where you appear somewhere, it's a pretty cool environment, the sky is orange, it like looks sick, and you're like, all right, they're handing me a crossbow with an explosive tip. I'm not going to think about why I'm here.
You know, my favorite moment in that level is you're there you're not just there to disrupt that specific launch, but also to kill all of their scientists, who they make sure they tell you are former Nazis.
Yeah.
There's a moment where you've blown some things up and they're all writhing around on fire in their lab coats. And I think Mason says, like, I don't know how good I feel about this. And Woods is like, hey, don't worry about it. They were Nazis. And I thought to myself, while it is true that the Soviets had Nazis, America sure as hell had its own Nazis.
Yeah, it was like, hey, don't look into the American space program.
Don't Google Operation Paperclip or Werner von Braun. It'll just upset you. Don't think about this.
I like that there are a number of just funny moments in this. The first part of the mission is like very stealthy, and you actually, kill some guys and you put on their uniforms, and so you're doing a little Wizard of Oz thing where you're like running through wearing the uniforms, and then you just go into a building behind like a thin closed door, and it's like, all right, time to kill everyone in this building, and the disguise is off. But then they kind of lampshade it in the game, but like, this is theoretically an early rocket launch, and you shoot a rocket, like a camera-guided rocket, up to the rocket and blow it up. And your guys are like, hey man, that technology was pretty crazy. And it's like, yeah, they didn't even have regular rockets. And you're implying that they had like a remote control live feed camera one to blow it up?
That's a good question. I wonder when those like first hit, because I think it was like sometimes in the 70s or 80s. Definitely not now. Not the Soyuz 1 launch. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, and they do that a couple times because they return to that idea in Vietnam, which is like, hey, if you make a gameplay mechanic, don't only use it once, get your money's worth out of it. Like, you put your mic up that you want to sound something. Here's a note that I made. Is this a game about Havana syndrome, where you were just constantly having numbers and confusing imagery broadcast into your head?
Yeah. Or is it like the real Havana syndrome? Intelligence officers having panic attacks because of what they do for a living.
Right. And going through electroshock therapy for it. Okay, so then we go to Vietnam. Why are we in Vietnam? It's because potentially your Russian targets are helping them out?
Yeah, there's like a Russian defector there, I think. And you want to go find them, but also like none of your squad seems to understand what you're also wanting to do there. It's like you're like, I can get some intel, and everyone's like, what are you talking about?
So he leads them through the Tet offensive and the fall of Hue City to get a document.
And I believe one of the implications that this guy makes, or the game makes, is that the Tet offensive happens and the Americans were like so unsuccessful in it because of Dragovich. That like if he hadn't been involved, then like the Americans would have had Vietnam under control. But like because of the bad guy in this game, it all got, out of hand.
Again, because our enemy didn't play fair, we got screwed. And I think they do actually say like that at one point they were investigating Russian involvement with Vietnam.
Yes.
I wish I would have thought to go back and like revisit some of World at War, because I know the end of that gets pretty grisly involving the German soldiers, but like there's something weird going on with the like racial politics of Treyarch's games.
Baby, yes, there is.
Noah, I'm sorry to our Russian listeners, but like Russians in Call of Duty games are nothing, right? Like they're fucking demons in Doom. Like they're literally just pixels. And yet, like, with the Japanese enemies in World at War, and now the Vietnamese enemies in Black Ops, like, the level of brutality saved for those levels. The, like, viciousness, the just overwhelming blood spillage in those levels. Like, it is saying something really interesting and bad and scary about, like, these games in general, that's, like, the Asian enemies get just like no, the Vietnam levels are
into ants. Like
exactly,
there's scenes where there are not scenes where when you are fighting the Russians in this game where you just have like hundreds of people running down a hill, and in this it is like it's like they're the bugs in Starship Troopers. They're just like unlimited of them that keep spilling over the top of the hill.
It's pulling on like shitty like tropes and cliches about like Asian overpopulation and stuff like that you can just throw this many fucking people at bullets. But like it is astounding the level of brutality saved for this level, and just like how you are just really like the game is just like, bro, go fucking book nuts on these motherfuckers, like in a way that like no enemy up to this point gets. Like it's awful. It really, like, I was having fun up to this point, which maybe says some troubling things about me. But like once I hit the Vietnam level, I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like it's funny you say that, because I remember
'cause the first chunk I played up until the beginning of the Vietnam level, and then I put it down and I came back to it and finished it off. And I remember, like, I remember this game being gorier than this. And, like, did they tone down the violence for Black Ops? And, like, I actually, like, looked it up and was trying to figure out what was going on. I was like, maybe I turned my gore settings off, so I checked those before I started the Vietnam level up. And then, like, the Vietnam level starts going, and, like, you get an M60, and, like, limbs are flying, and I was like, I don't remember the grisliest thing that happened before this is the scientists catching fire, but, like, this is a different level. Like, the Castro headshot was also pretty gross, but other than that, like, it is different.
Is
and then
Vietnam when you get the dragon's breath too?
Yes, it's the level after this. Like, you're doing close combat, and I think it's Woods hands you a spa shotgun with dragon's breath rounds. So you not only do you get to, like, blow limbs off, but you're blowing limbs off and they're on fire. And you know what? One of the best feeling weapons in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I mean, there's just a point where this game goes from Medal of Honor to Soldier of Fortune, and that is when you hit Vietnam. Like, yeah.
It's also, you arrive, the level of Vietnam imagery that this game is throwing at you, where you arrive in Vietnam, your first tableau is like 90 helicopters. Like, if you go back and look at how many helicopters in that scene, it is almost completely insane. And you were there for 45 seconds before shit starts blowing up. Like, it's like your first Jeep ride out of the airplane, and suddenly you are forced to kill 1 million people. I think the use of brutality in these scenes, as in the scenes in Japan in World at War, are meant to kind of gesture at the messiness of these conflicts. You know, that they, like, you know, when you show up in Vietnam, there's another guy there, one of your team members, who, like, also looks like shit. I think it's
Woods. Woods shows up.
Woods shows up, and they say, "Woods, you look like hammered shit." And so it is kind of meant to, I think, be this time of, like, oh, you know, in Vietnam, everyone's messy, you know, but it is the way that they use enemies in this level as just like bugs is, it is unignorable.
I agree with what you're saying, Jacob, and I think that would be the developer response if you were to, like, ask them about it. Be like, well, that was a particularly heinous war, and it's like, well, yeah, you're right. What does your game have to say about it? And it's like, it's nothing. Like, Gault called it a revenge tour earlier, and I think that's pretty apt. Like,
all wars are heinous.
Right?
Such a bullshit dodge.
Exactly.
But people do say that about Vietnam, though. They do say there was in particular brutal and different than other wars. And it's like, do you not know anything about, like, how World War II was fought, or the Korean? Like, nobody talks about the Korean War. Nightmare shit was happening in the Korean War. Are you kidding me? Awful things.
And I think, like, that is used as an excuse to make, like, a pretty undeniably racist level, you know? Like, it's just like, well, Vietnam was, haven't you seen Apocalypse Now? And it's like, well, yeah.
That tableau at the beginning, I think I mentioned this earlier, but, like, that Fortunate Son needle drop, like, and they play it again when you leave.
Yep.
It's like,
unbelievable.
We know one song.
It's so sorry. It's so irritating too, because it's like, that's not, like, what they listened to. They were listening to, like, it was like Sugar by the Archies, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff, like, bad high-tempo pop music was what was popular. They weren't listening to, like, anti-war songs anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, why would they be listening to that song? Like, I don't think the developers had listened to that song, or at least Googled the lyrics before putting it in. Because it's like, it's a noticeable, like, why the fuck would this be in here?
Yeah, it's gross. It's also, it is... Of all of these, actually, I would say the next level is even more set dressing, but, like, it is kind of wild how little the war matters to the plot, where, like, the actual plot of the game has nothing to do with Vietnam. Like, they could have gone to the moon and fought aliens, and if Dragovich had been there, or, like, Reznov would have been held captive, it would have held the same thematic relevance. Like, Vietnam doesn't mean anything to the game other than, I guess it was like around this time period, and everyone knows that this was a war that was fought.
Just a piece of set dressing you're passing
Other
through.
Black Ops games, at least Black Ops Cold War, goes to Vietnam, right? Like, do they do anything interesting? I can't remember Cold War at all.
Idea.
It's mostly Black Ops Cold War is there's like stuff in Iran.
Yeah.
There's like the fall of the Shah stuff at the beginning. There's another Pentagon level that's actually pretty good.
Right.
There is. It is Vietnam. It ends with psychedelic Vietnam stuff, and it's, if I recall correctly, is better than this.
I mean, I would say that playing World at War feels like they are test running Vietnam, because like the levels in World at War where you're in the jungle and you're using a flamethrower very much feel like Vietnam levels. They're just kind of like, that's in World War II, but it makes sense to me that they would have gone from there to here, because it feels like they're playing with the same imagery.
Yeah, they also brought over the annoying level design and monster closets from World at War. Very frustrating to get through of these sections.
Is just like, it is truly just endless enemies here.
I think there were not as many, like flamethrower troops were pretty popular in World War II, and I think they pulled way back on it in Vietnam. Like they used it for brush clearing, but it was extremely hard to get soldiers to use them because it's horrifying in a way that other weapons are not, and that does affect the use. And also, too many, like a lot of people came home and heard stories about heard their dad's friend who was a flamethrower troop going into a cave, and one stray shot and it's over. And it's over in a really painful and horrifying way.
That's maybe I'm probably conflating like the use of napalm with, because I associate fire with Vietnam, but it's a good point to make, that the fire is being dropped from 2 miles up, not on someone's back.
I really love but there was an obnoxious moment where they don't do a Chekhov's gun in this, where there's a part where you're like trying to descend a hill and there's barrels of napalm, and they call it napalm, and what they plan to do is like they were going to push everyone back and then like bury the napalm and then blow it when they came back across. But you can't, like, you shoot the barrels and nothing happens. The barrels can kind of move around. You go past them. They don't come back in later.
Yeah. Well, and there is also kind of a funny part where you are given, like, you're giving the firing pin to a line of napalm or explosives or something, and you're supposed to wait until, I guess, there are a bunch of people over it, but I was like panicked playing the level, and so they gave it to me and I just pulled it immediately, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't get any of them," and so then the level just went on and I had to like shoot them with a gun.
Wait, no, Jacob, you can keep using that. You can use it as much as you want. You just press 6 and you pull it back up.
Really?
Yeah, I used it like 30 times.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, guess I gotta go replay this game.
I also missed that.
Yeah, you can use it through the whole level. It's awesome.
It's at this
awesome.
point in the game.
Put that on the box.
It's awesome. It was at this point in the game, while I was blowing people's limbs off with an M60, that I noticed that in the subtitals they censor the word "fuck." They do a little like cartoon, like pound sign exclamation point question mark. And I was just like, what are we doing here?
That's so upsetting to me. I hate that shit.
It is true. It is truly bizarre. It is just like, why was this choice made? Why do you think you have to not say fuck?
That's so classically Call of Duty somehow. It's like, again, that you're sterile and obscene at the same time.
So after this kind of major like invasion Vietnam level, there's another level where you get the shotgun with Dragon's Breath. You also, in a very COD 4-esque way, you get access to an attack helicopter that you can kind of point at different things. And this is an interesting bit that was actually mentioned in an interview that I read about the game.
That's the one I was talking about that you can pull up whenever.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I did use that one plenty of times. But you're in this kind of like urban chaos situation. There's a soldier yelling into a walkie-talkie that they need fire support with basically no response. Then you take it from him and say, "Hey man, it's me. I'm Mason. Give us fire support." And then they immediately come in, and it again feels like a very clear separation from the Call of Duties where you're just kind of, you're a soldier and you're doing soldier things. And in here, it's like, you are a superhero and everyone listens to you more than they listen to regular soldiers. And like, that's explicitly what the developers said in an interview. Like, they called out that moment and they were like, we want you to feel cool. We want you to feel like you are kind of doing things at a level above the average troop.
Are there real dudes like that? Like Chris Kyle or whatever, the American Sniper? Could he have done that in a war? Been like, hey, it's me. Or is everyone just a lamb to a slaughter in real war?
Everyone's just a lamb to a slaughter.
Okay.
In real war.
That's what I figured, but I don't know. You know.
I think if you had some real serious interviews with a lot of the people that were around Chris Kyle, they would have very different stories than what came back.
I figured.
You're telling me that guy didn't give a perfectly accurate depiction of his life and how everyone felt about it?
Perhaps my question, however, was answered when Chris Kyle was the only soldier I could name off the top of my head. So there we go.
I mean, I think that like it's fun. It's funny because this is around the time when this game kind of comes out around the time where we start to have a lionization of the special operations forces, like the Navy SEALs, like people like Chris Kyle.
Yeah.
Kind of enter into the popular culture. Like that is one of the things that from the War on Terror like does break through, you know, with memoirs like Lone Survival and of course American Sniper. It is about these small teams of heroes that are fighting against like kind of this faceless horde in these wars. Like at the end of, how does the movie Captain Phillips end with Tom Hanks? Is like the SEALs like descend out of the darkness and just headshot everyone on the boat. You know, so in that those were kind of our superheroes of the war, were the Spec Ops guys.
Yeah, it's I think Call of Duty is ultimately so glad to have that be our new understanding of how the military works, because it is just a way easier story to tell than we are all lambs to the slaughter, you know. And like the kind of like World War II games, I think, struggle with like, how do you tell a story about individuals in World War II, you know, when the whole thing is just so like vast and not understandable. There's actually, I was watching our friend of this podcast, Noah Caldwell-Gervais' video on the Call of Duty campaigns last night, and he was talking about Black Ops and Black Ops' use of Vietnam, and he was like, Vietnam is notable because it is, you know, our first war that was like widely reported on while it was happening, and we all found out that it didn't actually help us understand it at all. You know, that like having reporters there did not make this make more sense. And so it is, you know, that like Call of Duty has then grabbed onto this way of making it make sense, which is like, make it about the superheroes, make it about the elites who can call in a helicopter at a moment's notice, because if you're just a guy on the ground, this whole thing is just like noise.
We've talked about, you know, the problems with Call of Duty and the lionization of the military, and we are certainly not the first to have this thought that is like, there are noticeable and direct impacts Call of Duty has on who enrolls in the military and why they enroll in the military. It is, as I heard in a GDC talk about this one time, they go to do, quote, Call of Duty shit. And playing this one, even more so than Call of Duty 4, like, this felt like a huge inflection point for, like, they just want you to think all of these dudes are, like, Michael Bay American badasses, especially
There's so much zip lining, man.
Exactly. And the Kowloon Walled City mission, well, it's pretty cool you get to have a mission in Kowloon Walled City, I'll admit. I'm like, what? Who are these guys? And what is this war? And it really does seem to boil down, like, what if war was cool? And it feels like this is like one of the big turning points for the Call of Duty series, in just like making these dudes all Leon Kennedy or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's, because it's like, I definitely don't want to say that it's the first Call of Duty to make war
Right.
fun or thrilling, because obviously that is the pursuit of
That's
all
of
of them.
Yeah,
but there is a level of coolness attached to this that I think previously had maybe only been given to Price, where it's like Price in that Chernobyl mission is certainly cool, and his his mentor that he's with and in the ghillie suits, that's cool. But this, it's like, yeah, they're all like getting a ways away and they're being like, oh, they found my lab, good thing I planted C4 over it, and then they blow up and it, you watch it and you think, oh, that's awesome.
I mean, you literally play as a bald dude with aviator sunglasses, fucking Max Payne 3 style, who dual wields pistols.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, unfortunately, thank God we don't have the statistics on how many kids signed up to the military because of that guy, because that would be bad. But like, yeah, playing this, I was like, yeah, I'm just repeating myself, but you get what I mean.
I do, and I think it's a good point. Here's my frustration with this last level that we played. What a fucking waste of Kowloon Walled City. One of the coolest places you could ever put a video game level. And here, you're there. And not only do I not know why we're there, but they never even, like, talk about it. It's like there is this awesome moment.
What do you want them to say about it?
I don't know. I just want to know. It's like, I feel like I had to do the work to realize, oh, we're in Kowloon Walled City. And not, give me a 1 minute walking section where I'm on the ground and I'm looking up and there are all these, like, people popping out of the walls.
For sure.
I like that a plane flies over and it's like 50 feet above you. That's
cool.
Really cool. But it is just like, it is, if you want to do more missions like the Prison Break sequence, where they are less about a war and more about just like a crazy series of events that the guys you're with are pulling off, Kowloon in some ways seems like the perfect place for that. And the fact that it is just like so unremarked on and kind of boring is just, it just drives me crazy, because like that is, if you want to do cool shit with guns, Kowloon, baby, like that's the place to do it.
I think that's one of the failures of this game in general. Like separating it out from its ideology and its politics and all that stuff. Just like on a pure gameplay and game feel level, it rushes you through everything. You have no time to marinate in like any single moment. Like Blake, like you were saying, right? Like it's just so intense all the time.
I think that's a Call of Duty problem. Like, if I can admit something embarrassing, I have struggled to follow every single Call of Duty story I've ever played. It actually was making me like a little nervous yesterday, like finishing up this section where I was like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, because every major story beat is given 10 seconds.
It's monologued at you in between the missions.
Yes. Yeah, and the loading screens where you go look at your phone and use the bathroom.
I mean, one of the strengths of Call of Duty campaigns is they are mercifully short, usually. However, when you need to like talk about or even remember what the fuck happened, like that breakneck pace makes it impossible.
It's like a
I have
James
no clue
Bond
why
movie, though. Like it's vibes, not plot, right? Like the plot exists only to move you from vibe to vibe.
But also, why the fuck are we in Kowloon Walled City torturing a guy with tattoos on his face? Who, like, what is his accent also? He sounds Irish and Russian and American at the same time. Like,
that's a Gary Oldman original, baby.
Yeah, and I would say, again, that the scenes that actually are given time to breathe become iconic. The like 50,000 people used to live in this city. Now it's a ghost town line from All Gillied Up in COD 4. Like, that is a memorable line that people still talk about, and like that Chernobyl section is like iconic for a reason, that like you really remember that you're there. And I actually think that the prison sequence in this does a pretty good job of like making you understand the place and like the people you're in it, even if it's just, hey, I like the big guy, oh no, he got crushed by a door. Like, that's something. That's kind of like an attachment to the people that are there. And yeah, the walled city thing is, it feels like someone throwing a dart at a dartboard of cool locations where they're just like, torture in Kowloon Walled City, and that's how they choose it, because the game spends so little time in explaining why this place would be interesting, why anyone from the game would be there, and like what relevance it has to the rest of everything going on.
As you can say with every Call of Duty, you should just be playing Shenmue 2 instead, which also has a Kowloon Walled City level.
Yeah, hey folks, you like Call of Duty Black Ops? Try Shenmue 2. Same vibes.
In my head, we smash cut to somebody working a claw machine for 3 hours.
I've actually never played Shenmue 2. I loved the first one, but I don't know if that Kowloon Walled City level's any good.
So you are, as we talked about, you're torturing this guy Clark, who then decides to help you throughout the whole thing. A gameplay quibble that I have with this is that whenever I'm playing a Call of Duty game, I always want to be using something that's not an assault rifle, because I think an assault rifle is kind of like the most boring weapon. And so I like that they start you out with dual pistols. As we talked about, the Spaz 12 with Dragon's Breath is fun. Actually, a note that I made that I think is interesting here is that this game doesn't use real gun names, which is notable, that their guns are called things like Commando and not like M16.
There was a controversy at some point around this. There's a reason they stopped doing it.
But I don't think it was here, because I'm pretty sure they use... this almost feels more like a studio discrepancy to me, because I'm pretty sure Infinity Ward was still using real gun names. And it's just kind of an interesting thing to note, because, yeah, it's like when a real gun is in a video game, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. And we don't have clear information on if gun companies are paying to be in it, if studios are paying gun companies to license their guns. This is kind of a thing that is more or less shrouded, where like no one is talking on the record about what happens. But like, I do just think it's interesting that this game is using kind of fanciful names for guns rather than real things. Anyway, my point being, all these levels seem like they're only designed to be fun with an assault rifle, except for the shotgun one. Like, I kept trying to, like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna take a shotgun and a sniper rifle in this level, and that'll be fun. And I just kept dying, and then I picked up an assault rifle, and I was like, okay, this is how they wanted me to play it.
I actually thought the sniper was really good in the Kowloon level, especially on a lot of the rooftop areas where dudes are in windows. I pulled a sniper and had a ball.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm just not good at the game.
I used the sniper rifle for the first half and then switched over to the assault rifle. Because I did
it's kind
get
of a
frustrated.
cool, weird assault rifle. It's got like long sticks that
that's a good gun.
Somehow.
Yeah, it's almost like a weird steer aug thing. I couldn't quite place whatever it was trying to... There's also like a rocket launcher called the Grim Reaper in there somewhere.
Yes, well, because both the Death Machine minigun and the Grim Reaper rocket launcher, I remember, are kill streaks that you can get in the multiplayer. Because I did spend a lot of time with the multiplayer of this game, and yeah, it was simultaneously very fun and incredibly frustrating, because like, you call in an airstrike, no matter what happens to you, that airstrike is landing, but you get the minigun and you're like, oh baby, I'm ready to go to town, and then you get shot in the back of the head and you don't even get to like fire it once. It was always very frustrating. So you're going through Kowloon, and then ultimately Clark, who is this guy he's going to tell you what the numbers mean, which is this mystery throughout the whole game. What do the numbers mean? And then he gets shot before he can tell us, and the mission just kind of ends. And it's another mission where you're like, what did we gain from this? Why were we here?
I loved the kind of terrible headshot graphic, and then the discarding of the body.
Right, where you just like
he has to fall and he hits the fucking pole. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not. He doesn't just like drop the guy and it goes down and splats. He like kind of tosses him, and there's slow-mo, and his back like cracks on a sign, and he falls over, and it's very elaborate. It kind of goes to Blake what you were saying earlier about this being angry. this is an angry game.
Recently we played Max Payne 2, and we're delighting in the ragdoll physics, and like the game was clearly so excited about like, hey, we can throw Max Payne into a bunch of girders and they'll all fall down in a fun way. And this feels like it's trying to do that while also making you sad about this guy being shot in the head. And it's like, I'm laughing at the ragdoll, man. I'm not taking this seriously.
Also, you just told me he makes chemical weapons and we fed him glass. I'm getting mixed messages.
Yeah. He's just played with the raw charisma of Gary Oldman, so you want to root for him. And that's where we leave off for this section of Call of Duty Black Ops. It's so funny where it's like, I've played this game, other than the twist, I have no idea like what missions are left. I really don't remember. I guess I kind of remember the Vietnam stuff before I started playing, but like, I have very little memory of where this game is going other than, they do the Deer Hunter homage, in quotes, where they do exactly the scene from Deer Hunter that we have to look forward to. Matthew, do you think you're going to keep playing this game?
No.
That you're not going to be on next week's episode?
No. No, I'm done. I did my time with this specific game 10 years ago. I've done my time with it now. I'm out. Which is sad because I do feel like the last couple missions it did start to get better. But no, I'm done.
Can we talk about the genre of typically male press member who plays every Call of Duty every year?
Yeah, Reed McCarter.
Seemingly hates it. It is myself, Matt, Yusuf Cole, the entire Bullet Points team. Like, maybe I'm the outlier because I love multiplayer so much and I don't hear anyone but Emmanuel Mayberg talking about loving multiplayer with me. What are we doing, though? Why do we keep fucking doing this to ourselves?
I can tell you, all I can give you is a personal reason that highlights, again, kind of the stuff I was saying at the beginning, where it's like, this is an enormous property that, as you said earlier, drives recruitment into the military, is a big part of the cultural fabric, and I know will be a remixed and bizarre version of like American imperial history. And so I am always interested to see what they're going to do with it. And there's this sick part of me, the sick, small, like little bit of hope that's at the bottom of my stomach that says like, maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time there's going to be another level like the Stalingrad level from Call of Duty 2 that's going to hit me in some way. Maybe there's going to be something there.
I think, yeah, I agree. I feel like it is almost my duty as gaming homework to play these things, just that they are so popular. But I also think, sorry, Blake, let me, they feel almost like, I'm trying to think of a bad snack food. You guys ever had Pirate's Booty? Which is like, it's like a Trader Joe's snack. It's kind of like popcorn, but worse, and it's healthy. And it's like, I don't think it tastes good. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But while you're eating it, you're like, well, I guess I could just eat 6 servings of this because it's in front of you and it's kind of meaningless. Like, it's not hard to play through a Call of Duty campaign. It's actually much easier than games that I really enjoy. Like, I love an immersive sim. It is so much harder for me to play through Prey than it is to play through Call of Duty Black Ops, that it's like, I can like black out and play through a Call of Duty campaign, and I don't need to put any thought towards it. And so it is this just kind of like junk food that is so easy to take down, even though on the other side of it, I feel like shit.
Blackout was actually... They don't do Blackout anymore. It became Warzone.
Okay, good to know. I'll remember that.
I agree with you all. I think like there is somewhat of a like moral imperative for smart critics to play
we
Call of Duty
probably
every
all
year.
get it free, at least have in the past. It's like, I don't want to pay for these games.
They have never given me one for free.
Oh my god! At GI, they would send us like 100 fucking codes for that game.
And MinMax 2 years ago, we got a copy of like Modern Warfare 2 free, and I believe I called it like ontologically evil, and then they did not send a copy the next year. So I don't know, maybe they listened to it.
I don't work at GI anymore, so I can talk a little freely about this. I'm really curious what that relationship is like now, because
yeah, you gave it a 4.
There was like a
right?
point where we scored them all like 9 and higher, and then 2 years in a row, there was one year I chose to refute Call of Duty, so I put Reed McCarter on it. I gave it like a 6 or something. It was like huge for GI to give a AAA game a 6, not just a Call of Duty. And then the next year, they didn't let me choose who reviewed it, and that reviewer reviewed it even lower. So I wonder what's happening over there with that relationship now, because we used to put them on the covers. We used to be tight with those dudes. And anyway, point being, I think there's like, I'm kind of joking, being like, why do we keep doing this? Like, I think we should. They are games that have to be talked about beyond, sites like GI just giving them blanket 9s. On the other hand, every time one of these games come out, I feel like I'm the equivalent of that meme where it's like, it's time for your dick flattening. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yes, honey being fucking Activision. Like, all right, let me fucking play through one of these again.
Opening the
and
door,
then I'll play
belt in hand.
Yeah. And then I'll play like 200 hours of multiplayer and be like,
this is really interesting. Like,
military.
What was the most recent Call of Duty to be on the cover of Game Informer?
Oh, we did not do one when I was there, to my knowledge. So 2020 to 2024, we didn't do a Call of Duty. I know we did one when I was an intern, which was 2016.
Well, I'll help you out. 2019, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was a cover. The new Modern Warfare. The year before that, Black Ops 4 was a cover. They skipped. No, they didn't. The year before that, Call of Duty World War II was a cover. 2016, Infinite Warfare. So they didn't do one in 2015, but Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, I thought those two were right after each other. So, yeah. But Call of Duty Ghosts was on it, Modern Warfare 2. So actually, the Black Ops series did not get covers other than 4. They didn't have Black Ops 1, 2, or 3 as covers, but the rest of them did get. And they didn't have Modern Warfare 3. But, like, yeah, that's a lot of covers that have now stopped. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for coming on the show. Both your insights about real-life history and video games, both very much appreciated. People can find you on, I mean, is Twitter the best place to kind of keep up with your various projects at this point?
Yes. I'm bad at social media, so we'll say yes. Follow me on Twitter. I'm usually tweeting out the big stories there. I write a lot, so it's kind of all over the place. Most recent thing is about the Sentinel ICBM project that we're going to spend possibly $300 billion on. So
cool. Sounds great. We're
all that good?
In.
Is that good?
We'll have the link to that in the description. For next week. On this podcast, we are finishing Call of Duty Black Ops, and then we'll be moving on to Spec Ops: The Line. I hope everyone, if they're playing it, has a good time, and if you're not playing it, good choice. We'll see you next time.
Bye.